What's up everyone, Alex here. Today, I want to talk about the looting problem the developers of Final Fantasy XIV identified in Alliance raids. If you've been playing the game for a while now, you probably noticed that during Alliance raids, that sometimes you might get two of the same item to loot. For me, I'll always remember the time when 2 Dragoon belts showed up and there were no Dragoons in the party. The normal attitude towards this is that if there are no Dragoons in the party, at least people who'd want this gear for their alt jobs, who are Dragoons, can greet it, right? The developers thought that this described scenario was something that a good portion of the player base was doing. It's then that they decided that they were going to be removing the need option in Alliance raids. During a live letter on April 20th, 2018, Final Fantasy XIV director and producer Naoki Yoshida said, "We're planning to set the loot rule for all Alliance raids to greed only, starting in patch 4.3. We originally intended the Alliance raid rewards to be a means for players to obtain gear for their secondary jobs. However, it is difficult for players to participate on these other jobs while wearing lower level item gear. This leads to many simply having to go as their main jobs, which makes them unable to hit need on the items that they really wanted, resulting in needing to run the content multiple times. To resolve this issue, we have decided to limit the loot rule to greed only, making it possible for players to join as their main jobs, while being able to obtain gear for their secondary jobs." When patch 4.3 hit on May 22, 2018, players immediately felt the effect of the change. While some argued that the idea worked well on the latest Alliance raid, which had imposed a weekly limit on what kinds of gear you can loot, players who ran the other Alliance raids quickly realized that something was off, making it actually harder to get the right gear for their jobs. Players went to the forums and expressed their grievances, and on June 7, 2018, Naoki Yoshida posted this on the forums. "Hello, producer and director Yoshi P here. Patch 4.3 brought major changes to the need/greed system in Alliance raids, and we received a lot of feedback from players around the world. After careful consideration, we have decided to revert these changes and bring back the need option. This will take effect from the next hotfix and includes all Alliance raids." This is great news, but I don't think reverting back to adding need addresses what the developers were trying to fix. To be clear, I'm not advocating that need be removed again, but rather finding an alternative way of allowing players to roll need on items that they really needed, but doesn't match the job that they're currently playing as. Interestingly enough, World of Warcraft actually has a solution for this. More specifically, there's a way for you to set what kinds of spec gear you want to get prior to running an instance. Being able to select what kind of gear you want prior to the queue is actually not a bad idea, and I think it would go a long way. And you won't even have to select from a list of all the available jobs either. Final Fantasy XIV's gear is really divided up into 5 different sets: tank, healer, melee DPS, range DPS, and mages, much like how role actions are divvied up. Imagine this. Say you queue up for an Alliance raid roulette, and maybe, while you're waiting or just before you press the commence button, you have a pull-down menu on the dialog box or the sidebar that allows you to select one of the 5 options mentioned above. Upon hitting commence on the duty, it'll take your choice and apply it as the gear you can need on throughout the whole duty. I realize that this is only one possible solution, but I'd love to hear from you if the issue the developers are talking about is something that actually affects you. Maybe you think this actually won't be a solution and it'll just exacerbate the problem. Also, have you played any other games that have interesting solutions to this? Either way, let me know what you think in the comments below. And if you haven't yet, consider subscribing to my channel, as we'll be covering Final Fantasy XIV, Yakuza, Warframe, and a whole bunch of other RPGs and co-op games. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll see you in Eorzea.